You don't need a hobby, you need a side quest. The spice of life is not adding one more thing to our daily routine, it is doing more stuff that's out of the ordinary. I'm Natalia and I've done a lot of creative side quests. Last year I learned production pottery and produced a collection of 40 pasta bowls. I also learned about folklórico, which is a form of Mexican folk dance, and I danced in a dance show. And then most recently I have learned about natural dyes, and I turned about a dozen stained and imperfect clothes into something that had a second life with my good friend Leia. So I learned so much about how to actually make side quests happen. Here are my top 5 tips. 1, set some goals. Not your workday goals, leave that energy back at the office, but instead just set some intentions around what this side quest is about. In my ceramics project, my primary goal is that I wanted to learn about production throwing, so I set a goal of making 40 bowls. But I also set a tier of goals. So that was my goal A, 40 bowls. Goal B was about making my skill match my taste. I wanted to find these bowls beautiful. That was a goal of mine. And then goal C is that I wanted them to encounter strangers, so I sold them at farmers markets. The purpose of tiered goals, I think, is just to give you a richer experience. So if you don't hit your goal A right away, you still have some pretty meaningful wins all along the way. Tip 2, set stakes. So stakes are what are going to give your side quests momentum and some challenge. So when I was learning folklórico on my second class, I was invited to perform in the recital 3 weeks later. They invited me to be part of the dance show in a few weeks, and I said yes. So now I have a dance show. And I have to practice. That pushed me to practice way more, and performing ended up being one of the most special parts of that whole experience. I usually also define my goals, my stakes, my timeline, my budget in a project brief. Maybe I'll do a second video on that. Tip 3, set an end date. As adults, I think we put so much pressure on the things that we do to become part of our long-term identity. But a side quest is temporary. That is the whole point. It ends when the piece is done. It ends when the collection is sold. It ends when the curtain goes down and the dance show is over. And practically an end date helps give you something to work backwards from. So that way you can organize your time and make the side quest actually happen. Tip number 4, let it be disruptive. Real side quests should probably shake up your routine because it's taking you to new places, doing new activities, meeting new people. And rather than fight all of that, I would just say, let it happen and try to embrace it. So when I was learning folklórico, I was spending 3 hours twice a week driving in peak LA traffic for months. And that's why that couldn't become a hobby of mine and instead was a side quest. But rather than just be so frustrated every week, I just made it part of the experience. And I used that time to call my mom and call my grandma. We could talk about culture and politics. Tip number 5, be vulnerable. If you're doing something new and challenging, there will be moments you just suck. Things will take you longer than you expected. You're going to spend more than you planned. You're putting yourself out there in ways you wouldn't expect. And I would say that's part of a sign that you're on a good side quest. So in my ceramics project, I felt vulnerable selling my work. In folklórico, I felt vulnerable sharing about my culture as a Mexican-American woman. And with natural dyes, I felt vulnerable learning a new craft on camera with my clothes and my friends' clothes on the line. But that is where that yummy, juicy growth is. And that's the part that when I think back on these experiences that I tend to be the most proud of. So don't skip them. So set some goals, set some stakes, have an end date, expect disruption, be vulnerable. These are the qualities of what make side quests different from hobbies. So if you're feeling stuck or bored, or you're just ready to rumble on a new challenge, you don't need a hobby, you need a side quest. If you want to follow along with my side quests, I share more of the full journey here on YouTube, so please like and subscribe, and more real-time snapshots on Instagram. Bye!